Well, hello there. This is Ina from Taproot Tarot, and today I'm doing a VR to Jay from Iridescent Tarot to her My Sparkly Decks tag. And the requirements are any deck that has any element of sparkle, glitter, foil, metallic, holographic anything on the front or back of the card. She excluded gilded edges or shiny box elements. So I definitely will be doing that as well. And in fact, I had to exclude even some of my less impressive metallic backs because y'all, even with the ones that I've called out, I still have 27 decks. I had no idea I had that many sparkly decks. So this is ridiculous. I'm going to go through most of them pretty quickly. A couple that I left out were in my last video. The Shakespeare Oracle has a little seal with an S on the back, and that S is in copper metallic paint. And then the Moon Oracle has a little bit of a silver back, but it's not super shiny or blingy. And there were a few others that I were like, it's not quite impressive enough to include in this group, and I have way too many decks already. So let's start with some Visconti-esque tarots. First, the medieval Scapini. This is art by Luigi Scapini, who has redone some of the US games, or created art for some of the US games Visconti versions, or at least one of them. Those ones are not blingy though, so I didn't include any of the US games ones in this group, but he did some art for replacements of some of the so-called missing cards, or perhaps ones that were never part of the decks to begin with. But then he created his own Visconti-inspired deck with illustrated pips. The bling in this one is not super blingy, but it's worth mentioning. This is a vintage copy of the deck. I already have the imprint version, but I've been wanting the book, or I had been, and so I've been keeping an eye out for it. And alone, it's usually pretty pricey, but I just happened to come across this deck and book set that is complete. It looks like the book and other elements haven't even been used. The deck definitely has, and it was an absolute bargain. So I couldn't resist. Normally I don't have doubles of decks because I figure if I wear a deck out, there are so many new ones, I can put a deck in retirement and move on to the next shiny new thing. But I did compare the in-print version of this with the vintage one. They're about the same, but I thought the vintage one was maybe just slightly more noticeable. It's the silver that is metallic. The gold I don't think is, but you can kind of see on the Page of Coins cloak there that the silver is glinting. It is the same for the borders and for the backs, but it's not the shiniest metallic paint. It's also noticeable in the saw blade down at the bottom there, and in the fishes of this Four of Cups. This is probably the most noticeable one. Also in this cup here, in the Seven of Cups. And it's pretty noticeable in the sword and chalice and the background elements of the Magician. And it is present in every card, but less noticeable. And it's on the backs of every card. So that's this deck. It's gorgeous. It's still in print. The book by Decker is unfortunately out of print. Mixed reviews on the book anyway, because it wasn't actually written by Scapini. So it's debatable if it's what Scapini had actually intended. That was the medieval Scapini Tarot. This is the deck and book set, which is out of print, but the deck itself is still in print. And let's look at a couple of other actual Visconti decks. The least impressive of these three is the Golden Tarot by Mary Packard. I like this deck, don't get me wrong. But as far as blinginess goes, it does have some matte gold metallic paint around the edges, and a couple of little glints in the flourishes in the middle. So it's quite nice. I got it for the book, really, which is not even included here in this box right now because it's on my bookshelf. But that is another version, or a version, of the Visconti Sforza deck. Comes with this kind of silly synthetic spread cloth and a nice book, which is elsewhere at the moment. That is by Mary Packard. As far as I know, that's still in print. And the Scarabaeo's standard version of the Visconti Tarot is super blingy. Really lovely. Even the writing on the edges is gold foil. As well as all the pips. Really beautiful deck. No bling on the back, but the triumphs are all gold foiled entirely in the background, and then little glints in the pips. I don't think the new mini is foiled. The vintage version of the mini I do have a copy of, and that one is not foiled. And then there is the museum quality Visconti di Madrone. There is a Brambillo coming out in the fall, and I have that on pre-order. This one I got used very inexpensively, and because of that I was afraid, like there's so little color and so much gold foiling, I was almost afraid some of the color had like chipped off, because a lot of the colorful background just kind of disappears into all this bling. I was kind of worried that it was a damaged deck, but can you kind of see that? She's just floating in a sea of gold. But looking at other folks showing this deck, I don't believe this is damaged. But you can see it's gorgeous gold and silver. The silver is very shiny, and then kind of more matte gold foiling. And you can see how glinty the silver on the edges is. It's really beautiful. And then backgrounds on the pips are silver. Look how gorgeous. And quartz go back to gold foiling. So this is quite a treat. It's pretty pricey. I happened to get it more than 50% off, which I thought was quite worth it. No metallic or sparkliness on the back. And it comes in this lovely firm foam velvet packaging, and with a nice book as well. So that is Lo Scarabäo's Museum Quali Visconti di Madrone. And a couple of other restored historical decks. We have a version here of the Estensi Tarot, also by Lo Scarabeo. This is the Golden Tarot of the Renaissance. And very few cards of this deck exist. So this has a lot of recreated cards for the purpose, but the backgrounds are lovely gold foiling. The pips are all, this is a recreation and doesn't actually make a lot of historical sense for the star card, but that's okay, it's beautiful. All of the recreated cards, though, are from frescoes from a palace that would have been local to the Estensi family. So they're still, even if they aren't very accurate to tarot, they are accurate to the history and geography of the deck. Yeah, these are a couple that I had pulled out for another video. Time and the moon. Even the title card with Fortitude on it is blingy. No bling on the backs, but the box is shiny. And another recreation, a little more modern, is the Symbolic Tarot of Worth. I'm really not a big fan of the pips and quartz that were added to this deck, but it is a really nice recreation of Oswald Worth's art. And you can see that this gold is a matte metallic gold. Now there's a super blingy, or there's the Golden Tarot of Worth, which is majors only. I think that's also from Lo Scarabeo. And then there's the super blingy US Games version, which unfortunately just doesn't look good. It's a really poor replica of the art. And the colors are garish, but it is a very shiny deck. I do kind of like the pips and quartz. They're a little more closely aligned with the Marseilles Tarot, which doesn't totally make sense, but it's better than, in my opinion, the solution that this deck has. But I do think this art is a nice representation. And it's a little bit shiny and metallic, which is nice. That is Los Caraballo's Symbolic Tarot of Worth. Let's show you a few Marseille style decks, and then I will show you some oracles and playing cards, and after that we'll get into my other random sparkly tarots. So this is a blast from the past. This was one of my very first decks. I didn't buy a lot of decks in my first few years studying tarot, which I started in 2019. So I'm guessing I bought this either in 2020 or 21. And it was before I had really warmed up to the historical art style of the Marseille Tarot, and really thought I preferred modernized renditions of it. This is the Seventh Sphere Tarot, and it's got nice coppery flourishes to it. I'm not a big fan of the art anymore. I pretty quickly gained an appreciation for the historical Marseille style, I guess. So this has been put away. This is a plastic deck. It holds up really well. Some of the bling is a little bit roughed up, but not too bad. But I think it's cool still, and it's a part of my tarot history. You can see the number and some of the symbols and titles are all sparkly with this copper metallic glint. It's kind of a neat magician. But Seventh Sphere, they have Smith-Waite style cards, so they really don't, you can see they really come from that perspective more. So I got this before I really recognized that as much, for sure. His eyes are coppery, which is kind of cool. I said I'd go through these quickly, and I will for the most part, but I don't see this one very often, so I think it's still in print. So if you are interested in it, I want to give you a chance to check it out. I do really love this death card. I think it's a cool deck. I kind of like the art style. This actually I think is pretty cool. Reminds me of Mordor. The Eye of Sauron. It's pretty, and like I said, it has sentimental value for sure as one of my first decks. Look at that bird. It's hard to see. There we go. See it glinting there. And the pips, I think, are pretty. It does bring in some elements from the Tarot de Marseille, which I do appreciate. It doesn't stick to them exactly if you're a purist. And it looks like the pips do not have any of the shininess, but the quartz do, and all the quartz are very similar to each other. There's not a lot of variation. Oh, and the aces also have some shininess to them. But yeah, pretty traditional, but simplified. I think it's a pretty deck. I just don't use it very much. Or I haven't used it at all really since I started getting more into historical decks. But I like having it around. Again, for the nostalgia of it, and because it is pretty. That's the Seventh Sphere Tarot de Marseille. The pip speak has already been shown for this tag at least a couple times, so I won't show it too much, but here's a quick look at how cute this is. Very sparkly and fun. Quite nice. Very cute deck with actually a really good book. I feature this in Best Decks for Learning or Improving Your Tarot de Marseille Reading. So that is the Pipspeak Tarot by Kitten Chops. Next is the Golden Tarot of Marseille by Lo Scarabeo. It acknowledges this is based on the Claude Berdel, which used to be Lo Scarabeo's default TDM deck. And this one, they just foiled the heck out of it. It's just for fun, I think. I got this as an add-on, a very inexpensive add-on to a used deck order to get free shipping, I do believe. And it was worth it. The back is not metallic, but a whole lot of foiling on the front. How cool is that? It's lovely for candlelight readings. And you can still really see the images quite well. Some of them get a little lost like this. They've foiled the crown and a whole lot of the chariot, but most of them still show up really nicely. That is the Golden Tarot of Marseille by Lo Scarabeo. And the Marshmallow Marseille, which does not have shiny fronts, but the backs are this lovely iridescent. And if you want to see more of this, my video called What the Heck is the Lombardy Pattern, which I will link in the description, is a flip through of this, or a walkthrough, with other Lombardy Pattern decks. It's also shiny and sparkly on the box. And this is out of print. It is the Marshmallow Marseille by Wandering Oracle. And the Keymaster Tarot is kind of a Marseille deck combined with four suited or French suited pips. And I haven't used this one yet, but it is stunning. You can see the backs are metallic as well as the fronts. Really gorgeous. And look how pretty that is. I have had this on my wish list for a long time and finally picked it up. Really interesting, kind of almost kind of sci-fi. I'll show you some, there's like really delicate details. How cool is that? And then the pips combine Marseille, look at that, with playing cards. You can see the Marseille pips overlaid with metallic gold. They are pretty badass. There we go. The shininess isn't showing up quite as well. See, I know this one's been around, but I really enjoy it. Look at that. And like the cups are stylized. Just kind of the shapes of cups, or chalices. Quite gorgeous. All right, sorry, I hope that isn't making you motion sick. Trying to show you the shininess. I'm getting my camera to pick it up. So that's the Keymaster Tarot from AGM. Those are all my Marseille, but before we move on to other playing card, etc. decks, let's show you this Minchiate. This is Tarocchi Minchiate di Marzo by Amparo Aguirre. And you can see copper decoration throughout the box. This is the first edition that is matte with blue matte gilding, or blue matte edges, but copper accents throughout the decks, as well as on the edges of the backs. And her new deck, which is in progress now from Kickstarter, it'll be more based on the historical deck, the same historical deck that this one's based on. The coloration will remain true to the historical deck, but she still added some copper accents to it. And I saw a video on her Instagram, it's pretty recent, of the way that she goes through and, you know, chooses which lines will be made into copper accents, and that was fascinating. So I recommend checking out her Instagram for sure. But I know you've seen this one quite a bit. And the new version I know is glossy, and I think she did that because she uses these to play where she lives in Italy. And I've seen some of the decks that she uses, the first matte edition, where they are just absolutely destroyed. So I think she came out with a glossy version so it would be more sturdy for gameplay. But this one works just fine for me. So I have a few playing card decks to show you just for fun. This is the new astronomical cards. It is based on a historical astronomy deck. The backs you can see are metallic gold, kind of a matte metallic. So I'm going to try to move through these really quickly, so I won't look up the exact history of this, but it is a historical deck from, I think, the 1800s. That includes star signs. And then planets for the courts. Or gods that are also planets, I suppose. So it's super cool. You can see the lovely detail and vintage quality of the drawings. And you can see they are also traditional pikes and clovers and paving tiles, which are the French names for the French pips. All right, I said I'd be really quick with these, but look how cool they are. And the jokers are super neat. Getting pretty overcast, so I had to add some light for you. And you know, I was going to record 2 videos because I did promise you a more activities-based video, but I am running out of time, so I'm going to have to give you a rain check for that. I will do that next weekend, almost definitely for sure. I will have every intention of doing that next weekend. It involves 2 book reviews and some activities based on those books. So I'm excited for it, and I want to do that video justice. This is another historical playing card deck. I've been getting into collecting historical playing cards. I don't recommend it. There are so many. If you think there's a lot of historical tarot decks, wait till you see historical playing cards. There's way more. They do tend to be really affordable though, so they're hard to resist. But this is the B. Dondorf Frankfurt playing cards. And the pips are grouped into continents. So, you know, this is going to be, I don't know. I don't think they're super offensive or anything, but probably some European Orientalism is being expressed. But all of the pips have these beautiful black and white sketches in the background. And then the courts are in color as well as the aces. And I think they're really beautiful. And so it just gives you a little bit of a scene to check out in the pips. Both of these decks, the astronomical one, or astrological, however you want to put that, I guess kind of both, and the continents one I found on Artisan Tarot. I think it's really gorgeous. And it tells you what is being portrayed on each card, which is pretty cool. Totally forgot what tag I was even doing. There are different color options for the backs and boxes. And you can see these backs have gold accents and background. They aren't showing up that well in the light, but it's pretty gold. And then the border is a matte gold as well. So these are the Bidondorf Frankfurt playing cards. And this is a vintage Piatnik set. These are based on a tarot from the German version of Art Nouveau, which I think is probably just an art style that formed around the time of Art Nouveau. I wouldn't compare it too closely to Art Nouveau, but it's this title here, Jugendstil. And this was originally a Tarocchi deck, and there is an Anima Antiqua version of the Tarocchi deck. Today we're looking at it because this version has silver on the backs. And I think that's really pretty. But this does replicate it has 3 jokers, and it does replicate the quartz minus the knight and the pips of the Tarocchi deck. And each of the quartz are from a different region, which was kind of a traditional thing. Maybe even just a different time period. And both of these decks are the same. This is a set of bridge playing cards. And I don't remember what date these are from, but this is an old vintage set of playing cards. And it has this nice, like, kind of padded, shiny top to it. So it's a lovely set of cards. The triumphs for this are Tarocchi triumphs, so they have scenes that are more like the French Tarot Nouveau, just in this more pixelated style. So I'm not a big fan of those cards anyway, so I thought it was kind of cool just to get an actual Piatnik version of this in playing card form. And I've got the Enchanted Garden playing cards by Bouchette Design, the maker of the Metanoia Marseilles. And the backs have some nice matte gold foiling to them. The fronts are not, I don't think the fronts are shiny, but they are adorable. Very sweet art. I haven't really tried reading with four-suited playing cards too much, but I do want to get more into it. So we're showing you this because of the backs. Some nice gold on them. And speaking of sparkly, I did support the Kickstarter and got the coin as well, just because I thought it was fun. How pretty is that? I did check, the Metanoia Marseilles does not have shiny backs. I had a lot where I was like, not totally sure if this is or isn't. So I checked through a lot of decks today, and there were some where I was like, I don't think that is, and I didn't check them, so who knows, I may have missed them. This is the Weird Sisters Oracle. You can see it's got a shiny box. This is intended, I think, for spell work. It's not how I use it, and I don't use it much because it's a little clunky just to use as an oracle deck. But it does have lovely silver line work on the back. It's just kind of subtly sparkly and then pretty silver edges. And the cards are beautiful. I saw this on Nova Mundi's channel, and she paired it with historical decks, which I never would have thought to do, and it goes with them so well. Like the artwork is just neutral enough to complement a lot of different tarot decks. They're split into different categories. There's like a sigil category, candle magic, magical tools, and then the Weird Sisters themselves. And then there's one other category. Oh, and just spell category. So it is intended somehow to be used for spell work. There's enough information in the guidebook to also kind of glean an oracle meaning. And also I think the imagery is enough. I mean, spell for abundance. So if that just said abundance and you just read that card as abundance, you know, that's really enough to use it. But there's usually a little tidbit in the guidebook that explains a little bit more about the card as well. But mostly the information in the book is about using these for spell work. So as gorgeous as this is, I don't use it a whole lot, but it is beautiful and shiny. My Friend Fire by Mari in the Sky. This is one that I got fairly recently, and I think it's just, no, not really recently. Time flies. I've had this for a while. But it's got this pretty matte gold shiny paint on the back. And some matte gold edges. And then the fronts are not sparkly, but they are beautiful. So this is an oracle deck. That's so cute. I don't know why that was upside down. But yeah, I know most of you have probably seen this. It's also got pretty metallic accents throughout the box. But it's a pretty copper. Is that copper or gold? I think that's gold, but it just being next to the fiery element makes it look kind of copper. And this is a historical deck by Grimaud, which I think is still in print. Persian Tarot by Madame Indira. This is kind of a series of decks, the Madame Indira decks. And you know, these are kind of old school. There's not much actually Persian about this, I don't think. So it's not culturally accurate or anything like that. But it is really beautiful. And it's got this metallic gold on the back and throughout the front. And it's very, very different from decks that we're used to. I haven't taken a whole lot of time to learn much about it, but I think it's beautiful. Some metallic accents in those coins. You can kind of see it. Mostly it's on the borders, but then some accents throughout. Then we get into, like, it seems like it's going to be a pretty structured like a playing card deck, but then you get into like owls for some reason. And then these cards, like, I don't know. Those are still owls. Here's a death-like card. This one has some really pretty gold foiling. You can see it even on the baby's blanket and on the border of her skirt, or the hem. And then things like this that don't really go with anything else, but are really pretty. So yeah, it kind of is a playing card deck combined with some other oracular elements. I'm not really sure. Oh yeah, and these are cool. It's kind of random, but cool. I love that. So one that I look forward to exploring, I noticed that it was starting to get harder to get, so I picked it up before it goes away, just in case. And that is the Persian Tarot by Madame Indira from Grimaud. And here is my blingy version of the Montaigne deck from Lo Scarabeo. These survived, I believe, just in black and white line work. So these have been not just colorized, but also enhanced with some pretty silver background, which I think is just lovely. This is an out-of-print deck. They should definitely bring it back though. Hopefully they will. It'd be great if they brought it back without all the titles. It does come with explanatory cards, which is pretty nice. Those in the backs do not have any sparkliness to them, but every single one of the cards does. And these were not a tarot, these were didactic images. But I think this version is still labeled as Tarot of Montaigne, or something to that effect. Okay, here we go. Montaigne Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. Let's get back into some tarots. I won't really show you this one too much. It's the Unifying Consciousness Tarot. And I just showed it in my Summer Decks video. So if you go a couple videos back, you'll see it. But I wanted to show you that these silver lines are metallic and shiny. Trying to help them catch the light here. The day has become overcast, unfortunately. But I promise these are shiny silver. A sparkly silver, I would say. And the deck itself is super cool. So if you want to know more about that, check out my Summer Decks video. I'll put that in the description box. This is the Splendor Solace Tarot. I have not even looked at this much because it was kind of a disappointing experience. I received a damaged deck, as you can see. I tried to return it, but the return link wouldn't work while I was at the post office. So finally, I think I was on the phone with Thrift Books, or no, I was emailing them, and they finally just said, just keep it. So I'm like, okay, cool, free deck. And the deck itself, I had to wipe off a few cards. I don't know what happened to it, some kind of water damage. But the deck is okay, maybe just a little bit of damage. So I just, sometimes when you have kind of a meh experience, you aren't really into looking at the deck yet. So I haven't worked with this one. And this is more of a study deck for sure. It's one I got just for fun. But look at this. These borders are all in gold. Nothing on the back. It's a little sparkly though, but I think that is a result of this pretty gold edging. But this is all based on alchemical stuff and artwork from a manuscript, an ancient or a medieval manuscript, I think. I think the Splendor Solace is a medieval manuscript. Pretty sure. But I will learn more about it once I'm ready to engage with this deck. But this is just gorgeous, isn't it? And it's just these borders, as you can see, are a pretty gold. And the cards themselves are a really soft rose petal. They're very pleasant. And the art is just gorgeous. It is structured like a tarot. So I'm including it here in my tarot, getting back to my tarot section. But it takes liberties, the details of which I can't really remember. So it's been a while since I've looked at it. But I do look forward to checking this out more. I love the concept and the art. But it was just a frustrating experience trying to purchase it. I did get it for free though, so I should get over it. So that's the Splendor Solace Tarot by Marie Angelo. And the box is blingy as well. This entire box is super sparkly. And I didn't bring out the big box that it came in because that is just disrespectfully huge. It comes with a gigantic book. But this is the Dolly Tarot. And you can see the backs are shiny matte metallic gold. And then throughout the fronts, the border are metallic. There you go. And then between those gold borders are Dolly's artwork. Really gorgeous. get less metallic as we go on. Here we get back to these golden metallic borders. I pretty much have this deck as a collectible at this point. We'll see. Maybe at some point I'll get more into reading with it. I've heard mixed reviews from people who read with it. Some find it super readable, others not so much. So for me, it was just a birthday treat, and I enjoy the art. And this is the Taschen version, so it has a really good book with it as well. That's the Dolly Tarot by Taschen. And this is the Renaissance Tarot by Brian Williams. This deck is still in print, but I got a vintage copy of it because it was a deal that came with the book, which is harder to get. And I enjoy Brian Williams books, so I got it for that reason. And the borders are, again, this metallic gold. Not so much on the backs, just the fronts. So his artwork is lovely. It tends to be pretty homogeneous, like his Minchiate deck isn't certainly my favorite because I just really prefer more historical artwork. I'm going to stop trying to make the the gold show up for you because I might be making you motion sick, but I'll flip through this a little bit. As far as I know, this deck is still in print. But the book, as I mentioned, is a little harder to get. But it's got this very pretty gold border. It does have quite a lot of nudity. I would say it's kind of classically done, but just to be aware of. And that is the Renaissance Tarot by Brian Williams. And here we have the Klimt Tarot Pocket Golden Edition. This is such a cool little deck. And I got the Pocket Edition because it doesn't have the overdone titles. It does still have a nice little book to it, which I actually really like the book. I found these, this isn't actually Klimt's art. It's by a contemporary artist employed by Lis Garbeo, who reinterprets Klimt's art style. And the pips are illustrated. They do show the pips themselves in addition to illustrations. From what I've heard, the illustrations are based on kind of old school Italian cartomantic tradition, which is pretty cool. Look how beautiful that gold shininess is. So some of them, you know, could be related to Smithwaite tradition, like this one you could kind of see, but not all of them. And I actually quite like a lot of the definitions. I love this devil card. It's super interesting. So I do actually really like the book in this. A lot of the cards are, you know, perhaps difficult to interpret without it. But I find it to be a pretty usable deck if you read numerically. Very naked. I should have given a little bit of a warning. I might actually skip some of that, but not all naked. Let's show you how the gold shows up on her outfit here. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Gorgeous Justice card. I wouldn't call the nudity, you know, sexualized. It's just kind of there, and I think tasteful and artistic. I really enjoy this deck. I love the packaging. I think it's great. It is the Klimt Tarot Pocket Golden Edition. This is one I really haven't used much because it was not what I was expecting. This is I Trionfi del Regno di Sicilia. So it's a Sicilian tradition tarot, and the artwork is based on Sicilian tradition. How beautiful is that? And so you can see like the North African and Arabic influence. which is prevalent in Sicily. One thing about this, though, is that the pips are illustrated and they don't have, in most cases, the pips pictured. So this is the Two of Cups, but there's only one chalice pictured. And again, this is the 3, and there's only one. But I think the art is really gorgeous. I was expecting it to have the number of pips that it has. In which case, if they're, you know, I can read it like a pip deck and interpret the art separately. That's how I would normally do that. But I haven't tried to read with this one because it doesn't actually show the pips. But I think this is exquisite. So certainly worth having anyway. The reason I'm showing it to you today, how cool is this? I'm showing it to you today because of the triumphs. Which are blingy. How cool is that? So this is Il Bagato, and you can see the infinity sign and the little top of the turban are shiny, as is the cloak and the cuffs of the sleeves and pants. The coin down there is metallic, and some of the flourishes and the decoration around it. How beautiful is that? Il Papesa. A lot of the border work around the outside is blingy. The whole throne around her. The Empress. I hope this doesn't make you motion sick. But I think it's worth it to show you how cool this deck is. Gliamonti. What a gorgeous justice. Look at that dress. Just completely foiled. Lovely feminine hermit. It's just the lettering, I think, in this one that has foil on it. That makes sense. She's supposed to be more of a simple monk type character. Some of the buildings and the sky are foiled in this one. The armor there. Here it's the background. It's that red metallic. How cool is that? There we go. Super interesting death card with this metallic ocean in the background. Temperance. This devil is awesome. Look at those flames. And the blue cloak. Funny. Is it a coincidence that the devil is flying a French flag? I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. But there's a whole lot of history to this deck that I haven't looked into, but I look forward to checking it out more. Look at this star card. How amazing is that? Stunning. Got two different, I've got like a fiery sword. Let's see if I can get that to show up well. There it is. And a silver trumpet. Gorgeous. Really traditional world. And the Fool. Jumping out his cup and holding some fire for some reason. There we go. Even the grape leaves are gilded. Isn't that cool? I couldn't resist it for the artwork. But again, not sure how useful it is as a, or how readable it'll be for me. So that is I Trionfi del Regno di Sicilia by the card brand Del Negro, which is a family name in Italian. And finally, one more Luigi Scapini deck. This is Il Tarocco della, does that say Vetrate? That doesn't sound right. Let me see what the book says. Yeah, Vetrate. I think it's just glass. Remembering something different for glass in Italian. But anyway, this is entirely in Italian. But this is a tarot of glass, and I'm showing you this because look at these backs. I hope they show up, because this is a really cool holographic effect. And they're made to look like, you know, the glass windows that are made out of bottles. I hope this will show up. It looks like it has depth. It has like a 3D effect to it. I do not know if I'm going to be able to get that to show up. It kind of shows up. You see that? It is super cool. It is like 10 times cooler in person though, I promise. Wish I could get it to show up better for you, but the only way I can get it to show up is to also have this glare. So try to look beyond the glare at the cool holographic effect. But if you look at it in person, it makes it look like there's depth to it. Like I said, kind of a 3D effect, and it goes into the black borders as well. So that's something a little different, and it's a beautiful deck. All made to look like stained glass. I think with this one, I have all but one of Luigi Scapini's decks, or there might be more. He does a lot of work for Del Negro. But there's one that is all about harvesting grapes and making wine. And it's pretty cool. It's not really to my taste. It's considered not necessarily his best artwork either. And also it just kind of glorifies drunkenness a little bit. It's intended to be funny, but not to everybody's taste. But this one is absolutely stunning. Look how gorgeous. No bling on the fronts, which is probably good. The art itself is so intensive. I think bling would take away from it. It's a pretty cool feminine death card. And a masculine temperance, or a non-binary perhaps. Look at this devil, y'all. That's so cool. This intricate work is amazing. All in the style of stained glass. There is a lot to look at. And the pips are super cool. Look how gorgeous. This one's kind of funny. I haven't tried to hold the translator to the book yet, but it would be fun to look into that. In all likelihood, it's not going to give much information about the art. That's how it tends to go. But I'll probably look at it just in case. Really beautiful detail. Stunning. And one more look at these backs just for fun. The way I'm seeing it, I so wish I could get that to show up for you. It is kind of showing up, but if you like holographic effects, trust me, this is super cool. Way cooler than in what's showing up on the camera. And that is Il Tarocco della Vetrate by Luigi Scappini from the company Del Negro. And it's got super cool holographic backs to it. Well, those are my sparkly decks, folks. I hope you enjoyed. I really enjoyed going through and finding all of them and realizing I have an absolute ton of sparkly, shiny, and holographic decks. Let me know if you responded to this tag so I can see what you put together. And thanks a lot to Jay for such a great tag for us to respond to. It was super fun. Thanks a lot for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye!